Welcome to Beyond the Roar.
This is a podcast about intentional conversations around life, family, and church. I'm Chris, a barber and a builder.
And I'm Todd, a pastor and visionary.
We're not just church people. We live real life, talk to real people, and we believe everyone matters, no matter what rung of the ladder you're on.
Our mission is simple: reach the lost, heal the hurting, and listen without bias in a world that's quick to label and slow to care.
If you're looking for perspective, encouragement, and honest conversation, this is Beyond the Roar. And I don't think you've worked with AI much involving this type of thing. I also haven't either, but it's quite fun though. Me and the guy are working on it, and he's real easy to get along with. We're trying to set it up so that it will tell people different things when they first call in. And I don't know what AI...
Instead of the same old... You mean like the greeting that they tell people?
Yeah, more like a spiel every time you call in.
Welcome. Do you need to unplug your freezer?
I do. Also, hey, this crack is increasing heavily. It is.
It needs to be bow tied.
I just noticed that right now.
Thank you, Scott.
What am I missing here? Before we start. That's turned off, that's turned off. So yeah, it does say something different every time because it's run by an AI model. So every time you call in, it'll say, hey, welcome to McGuire's Barbershop. How's your day going? Or how can I assist you? Or hey, Todd, good, thank you for calling back. Like, it'll call you by name and everything. Huh. It's crazy. But now I need it to say something along the lines of, hello, welcome for calling McGuire's Barbershop. If this is a phone that receives text, please confirm. And if they say no, then it'll say, well, come on into McGuire's Barbershop and we'll book you in here. Because currently how it's working is they're saying, they're going through the whole process of booking, like 2 minutes talking to this AI. And then at the end she says, I'm sorry, if you don't have a text number, or if they say, well, this is a home phone. They say, well, I'm sorry, we can't book in, and they just end off the call. Old people.
You can't book in with a home phone?
You got to have a payment link sent to you so that you can have a card on file. I need a card on file for no-show protection. And I'm going to have to start doing that in here, too. Not because I'm getting too many people no-shows, but it's still enough. You know, even 1 or 2 a week. But the phone system has greatly improved even since when I first started. When I first started, I think the first day I had 2 people didn't show up because of the phone system. Because they'd call in, it would immediately book them, and then that was it. Now it's really nice.
So you're really limiting who you'll have in here for clientele because of that. Like,
nope.
Not everybody has a cell phone.
They can come in here and book.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You do got ADHD.
Nope.
I said that. You missed it.
I did. Takes me a minute to catch up.
You're playing pool on your iPad.
So what happens on a day let's say today you were sick, can't come in. Does it send out automatic rebooks?
I do.
You do?
I call everybody. I should include a payment or a rebook link.
Just in case.
If I had an assistant, now this is where having a proper receptionist, sorry, not an assistant.
Yep.
This is where having a receptionist comes in handy. Because she can rebook. She'd come in today and say, well, today McGuire's sick, so I got to book you in for the next available. Are you available next Friday?
Yeah.
Now I have to call each person and say, hey, I can't make it in today. And then I also don't have the time to go through every person and say, hey, I'm rebooking you, or whatever.
Right.
When Ashley's Graham died, oh, that was a mess.
Yes. Well, you got a couple of 3 days there. You got to.
There was Wednesday, was the only day I worked that week. Tuesday, she passed, and it was not a very good day, so I stayed home with Ash and canceled that day.
Yeah.
Then we thought the funeral was on Friday, and Thursday was supposed to be a viewing. So I took work off Thursday we were going to leave early, go be with the family, then go to the viewing. Ended up they weren't available on Thursday. So Thursday I had to cancel anyway, because I'd already done it.
Yeah.
And then I had to cancel for Saturday as well.
Dear.
So that was exciting. And I call everybody and tell them what's going on in the issue and stuff. And I never had anybody
That's hard on you, though. What if you're sick?
call them.
I know, but if you're home sick in bed, you're like, hello.
Well, it's better than what I was doing before, because I just put the sign up and
Yeah.
everybody would come and be disappointed.
Yeah.
So even now, this is better than before, because even the seniors, I can call their home phone at least. Say, hey, I'm not going to make it.
Right.
Because before I'd have old people, they'll sit, my Lord, old people, I shouldn't call them old people, our elders. They'll come 2 hours before appointment and sit there the whole time waiting for it.
Mm-hmm. Hoping somebody will talk to them. Because for them, it's a form of socialization, too.
It must be.
Because for us, we're already out into it, rolling headlong. For them, it's like, nothing to do.
Nothing to do yet.
You know.
But I'd have them sit out front here for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
On a day that I was closed, I'd post it on Facebook. I'd post it a week before. I'd have a paper right on the door that said closed today, for whatever event. And they'd come here and still sit because they don't come up and read.
Going to get a haircut. I don't know why you ain't open. Lights ain't on.
There's a lot of psychology behind that too, though. People will avoid 90% of the stuff you have on front of the business.
Huh.
No matter how many signs you put out, big red letters, it's like Facebook Marketplace. You've sold on there.
Yep.
You know how you put the price up, and you put where you're located, and you put what the item is,
Yep.
and then somebody will message you and say, hey, what are you selling? Or
Yep.
what's it cost?
Yep. Where do you live? How much you asking?
Read the ad.
The ad right there says $150. I'm not giving it to you for $125.
I was listening to a guy on the internet the other day. He had a video. He was selling part of a muffler.
Yeah.
I think it was an exhaust tip or something, and he wanted $300 or something for it. And the guy said, what about 50? So the dude sent him a video of him walking over to the trash and just dropping it in it. Said he wasn't very happy.
It's only an exhaust tip. Whatever.
In the Miramichi, Everett tells this story a lot.
Yep.
In Boys Town, there was a feller, and when he'd sell stuff, I believe the story goes, if he didn't get the right price or somebody just came up to him and offered him too low, he'd just take it and break it.
Yeah.
He had a plane engine, I'm pretty sure, one time. Or something, it was crazy anyway. Some probably could have got $500 out of it. And somebody come up and offered him $300, and he said, nope, if I ain't going to sell it for what I want, said nobody's going to have it.
Yep.
Went out and just destroyed it. I don't get that.
I understand that. He must be a Generation Xer.
He was a Generation 1800er, pretty sure. He was like
one of those.
either that or early 1900s. He was young whenever it was, or he was old whenever it was young.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, if I'm going to research, I'm going to research whatever it is I'm putting on, what it's worth, roughly, then knock another $20 off just because. But I'm not going to give it away.
No, don't feel good giving it away.
No, people want you to give stuff away. No, I know what I paid for it. I know what it's worth. Mm-hmm. This is what it is. If you don't want it, move on. Somebody else will purchase it. And if not, it'll just sit in the shed.
You ever go to a yard sale, Graham?
Yep. Or your mother?
or my mother. They're funny that way.
Yeah. I'll give you a quarter. I wanted $12 for it. I'll give you a quarter.
Whole stove or something.
Yep. Your mother,
Handshake.
your mother and your grandmother pride themselves on coming home with something that they paid almost nothing for.
Mom, she come
And
in the
if it's
house.
free, it's even better.
You remember the time Mom come in the house there from Ireland's just screaming, I got it, Fred!
Yep. Yep. She bought a dirt double vacuum cleaner over there at one time for $10. They wanted $35 for it. And she went to them and said, the box is open. And something else. And they're like, how about $10? She's like, sold.
Yeah.
Came in the house just freaking. Guess what I got? I give up. A cold? Yeah, that's your mother. Free store. Get me to the free store. I think 90% of her wardrobe, her entire wardrobe, would have been purchased at thrift stores.
Martin.
She's a thrifter. She
Yeah.
loves to do it. And she said it's not even, because we've been in thrift stores all over Canada and the U.S. And she said it's not even buying the stuff, it's the hunt.
It's the hunt.
She loves that. We have at home 4 or 5 lap quilts that were purchased at an Amish thrift store in Shipshewana,
Yeah.
Indiana. And the last time that we were there, I purchased a king size quilt, handmade, for $20. Mm-hmm. That's a big. She said you should have asked 10 for it. I said
10?
20 is a great price. They're $300.
There's a woman around here, I won't say where in New Brunswick, but
Yeah.
I believe she charges $700
Yeah.
for a kid-sized, whatever that would be, 4x4 quilt. And the big one she charges $12 to $17.
That's a little much, but if they
Well,
can get it,
I mean, with her, she does it all by hand. It's
Yeah.
a week, at least,
yeah.
even for the small ones. So the big one's 2 weeks.
Oh my land, them big ones. I remember Aunt Judy. The first time I ever saw this, Uncle Norman and Aunt Judy. She used to sit a quilt rack right in the middle of their living room for a few weeks, and she would do quilt.
Yeah.
And now she gets first place down in Florida when they get down for the winter every year at the Pasco County Fair. She goes in and she comes out first place, blue ribbon prize, Judy. All these
Oh, my goodness.
for all these quilts,
Yeah.
and that's her. But she's so crafty and smart that way. And
I didn't even know she quilted.
oh yeah, she's got beautiful quilts, unreal quilts. You know, it's my secret desire to want to make a quilt.
Do it.
I want to.
Why don't you?
I currently don't have a place.
Well, you got all the women in the church. They teach you.
That's what they said.
Go in the basement. You got a room in the house down there.
I know, but I would have to set up a quilt rack and figure it out. Then what am I going to do? Like it's going to be a patchwork quilt, I'm assuming. But I don't know. It's just been a secret desire. It's not something.
That's not weird.
Big manly man wanting to make a quilt. I don't even know how to sew.
Was it you that sewed Grampy's floor liner in his truck, or was that him?
Must have been him.
Okay. I remember always seeing that growing up in the old plow truck he had with the frame broken in it. You'd climb in and the frame would be
Yeah.
hanging on the ground.
Yeah, it must have been him.
Okay. Had the what's that, liner in the ceiling there? It would always
Yeah.
fall down,
Yeah.
grab you on the head there while you're getting in there.
Then that year of vehicles, I don't know, or that era, the headliner, the glue would always let go from the dampness of the cold weather or the hot weather. And you had to take it off, re-glue it. What a stupid thing. All you really would have had, honestly, you could have used the same cardboard that goes up in there, but you could put kill mat on that. You could put new fabric and make it look really cool up in there, but we all just stuck tacks in her.
Yeah, probably. Shoved them right through the friggin' steel roof.
Yep, cheap way. Put tacks in her, that'll hold her up. So when you get in, your whole head wasn't being covered by it was just a little section laying on top of your head if you were tall enough. So then you get out and your hair would stick right straight up because it's been rubbing
Static.
since you left home. Looks just like alfalfa.
Well, I suppose today, none of this was associated with what we're talking about.
No. But
Today,
it's fun.
we're going to get a single topic,
One.
and that's how does everything in the Bible apply to our generations now? Or does it? And I'm thinking mostly about it because I was listening to Paul the other day in the Bible. He was talking about that, about the covenant. He was talking about those that didn't want to be in the new covenant with the Holy Spirit and stuff. And
Yes.
he said, if you're going to be in the old covenant still, he said, you have to follow it to a T, which is almost impossible.
He was smart.
He was a smart man. He was, as I remember from the Bible, him saying he grew up as a Sadducee or part of the, I guess the Pharisees and the Sadducees were the same. One just didn't believe in resurrection, but he grew up heavily with them and studied under them, and he was zealous, and he devoted his whole life to Christ in the end. But he was a smart man, knew he was a Roman citizen, he was a Jew, he knew multiple languages, because the Romans would have spoke.
He was highly educated.
What did the Romans speak? There was Hebrew, whatever
Greek.
the Romans speak, Greek. He preached in Asia.
They weren't from Greece, but there was Aramaic,
Aramaic, yeah.
and he could speak so many languages.
They went on that island too, and they were talking to the tribes people, so they
Yep.
must have spoke something similar.
Right?
Gracious.
He
Something like
wrote
that.
he wrote letters to the Romans and the Galatians and the churches and the Hebrews, and he made it clear. He made it very clear. And so a question like that could be answered quickly in short form, but it wouldn't stick. It needs to be something that goes in depth. What was the question again? The question.
You don't remember the question?
I do. I was just going to get you to say it again.
How does the Bible apply to our generation, or these things in the Bible? Does all of it apply?
The Bible shows a consistent God, but different in every generation. Same God.
The one thing I see is a lot of older folks like to argue different parts of the Bible. Like if we're mainly looking at the Old Testament, we shouldn't be eating pork if we're still going to follow that. But then we also shouldn't a lot of creatures we shouldn't eat as well. Mm-hmm. I believe lobsters are not supposed to be eaten. Yep. All sorts of shellfish.
I know people who literally follow that.
To a T, though? Everything?
Right. They don't eat anything that the Bible says that they shouldn't have eaten.
Not just eating, though, but because if you're going to follow part of that Old Testament, I'm wondering, is it right to follow the whole thing? Because that's a.
I respect people for a stand that they'll take. They won't eat pork. They won't eat. The Bible teaches cloven hoof, split hoof, anything So, I mean, you're eliminating a ton of food, you know. And when it comes to shellfish, lobster, anything in a shell, anything like that, even turtle, I'm assuming,
Yep.
anything that would be like a shellfish or whatever.
Can't eat octopus. That was also another weird one. If I'm not mistaken.
There's a name for those. There's a name for those that have the armor on the outside or the bones on the inside.
I don't know.
I can't
Don't matter
think of it
anyway.
right now. But anyhow, Paul wrote to those churches in different generations. You know, I don't believe for 1 second he sat down and wrote to the 7 churches that he did that in a week. It took time. When he wrote to the Ephesians, when he wrote to the Galatians, when he wrote to the Romans, when he wrote to the Hebrews, it was very clear that God is the same. However, Paul also stated in one of his writings to be all things to all people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he shaved his head one time.
Yep.
To be all things to those people. I'm not interested in shaving my head, but I try to be all things to all people.
I'd like you more.
Yes, probably. We look more alike. We should try her. Talk about a shock value.
We should both shave our head and our face and our eyebrows.
Oh, my word.
And we'd be the Baldwin twins. I hope that wasn't a bad reference. I don't know who the Baldwin twins are.
I don't know either.
Unrelated completely. I had a pastor joking the other day. He was going to go pick up twins there in the Waltons. There's a show,
Yep.
an episode where there's a pastor comes and stays with these old women. And they got the recipe, and he said, "I'm going to go pick up the twins there, whatever their names are."
The Baldwin sisters.
Were they the Baldwins?
Yeah.
Yeah. They got them drunk. Got the preacher loaded.
Yeah. Have some recipe, dear.
But anyway, back to our conversation. I've heard a pastor discuss it before. He was teaching almost as if he was having a conversation himself. And it was about what does apply in the Old Testament and what doesn't, and how, or what the difference of it would be. Because then it also gets into dress, and it gets into proper ways to deal with the animals and the sacrifices. Of course, we don't have the sacrifices anymore. But that's such an interesting thing to me of what still applies and how and why. Because I haven't studied that. I'd like to, but...
The Old Testament had so... I was just listening to that this morning in my devotions. The Old Testament had so many sacrifices. Like, I'm so glad, thank God, that I don't have to go in the neighbor's yard and kill his cow just to give a sacrifice. You know what I mean? Or the bull.
Was it not based on the generation too? The first generation that God asked to sacrifice, each person had to sacrifice a certain amount, and then it lowered down to each family or something, and then in the end it was the priest making one sacrifice for the nation.
The atonement for the whole nation.
Yeah.
However, you had to bring your sacrifice to the temple.
You still did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's why we say in the New Testament church about coming to church, it's a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing our sacrifice to the house of God. So can you imagine the old priests back in the day, the nation of Israel, 3 million plus, and you want to talk about being a busy person. Because there were different forms of sacrifice for different sins.
Well, it wasn't just a single priest, though, at that. They had the high priest.
They had to have many priests.
And the high priest and his sons, and that lineage was the priesthood. that whole line of,
The Levitical priesthood.
yeah.
The
It would have been
Levites.
all of
the
them.
Levites. Mm-hmm.
All of the Levites. There would have been,
Can you imagine them sitting around in the locker room after the day was done? Discussing? I had a couple today that came and they, like, don't they know better? Don't they know better? How many times have they brought that sacrifice to do? They haven't learned yet.
I never thought about that.
Can you imagine the things that, it was more than just, because we like to look at because we don't know, we weren't physically there, what the scripture teaches. We weren't physically there when they were sacrificing. We weren't physically there when God told Noah to build an ark and then get inside the ark. We weren't physically there. So we like to take all of those people and put them on some kind of a higher plane, a pedestal.
Yeah.
You know, we put them up on this. And they were just, well, you know what? They were people.
Mm-hmm.
They made mistakes. They made stupid decisions. They sinned. They did things that they needed to have atonement for. And if there was ever a generation that needs God, here we are.
Yep.
We're living in an evil day, a sinful day, where the Bible says there's going to come a day where they're going to call evil good and good evil.
Yeah.
Here we are. Welcome to your new reality. This generation needs God.
But how does that apply to the covenant?
How does that apply to the covenant?
You do got ADD.
My head goes all the time.
I know it does.
And every now and again a thought will roll through that I have to build a picnic table. And then I need to go do this. And then I get back on task again. Every generation has a different assignment.
Different assignment, but the covenant stayed the same until
Covenant's
Jesus
the
came.
same. Covenant's the same. And even after Jesus came, the new covenant, the blood that was applied, the mercy seat, the forgiveness of sins. So every generation has an assignment that we have to show people the way. How does this apply to the new covenant?
Is that just the thing? That all of the parts of the old covenant are the same except for Jesus being the sacrifice? So in turn, we don't have to worry about the sacrifice, but the rest of it stays? Because that almost makes sense. Other than when Jesus showed Paul that all these foods and all these different things are clean. What I make clean, do not, how was that worded? Do not call unclean. What I have, Jesus speak, and what I have cleansed. Anyway, I'm not sure about that.
If you go way back to the beginning in Adam's generation, the Bible teaches that they walked in innocence, but they still needed to have atonement for the sin that they were wrapped up into. And then when you go into so if you did it generation by generation, and Noah's generation was to face a judgment, but then God preserved them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a generation. So you've got Adam, you've got Moses, and generations beyond that. I mean, we could just randomly sit here. David's generation was a praise and worship generation.
But Adam and Moses weren't under Noah, weren't under the covenant. And that's even a different thing.
Moses' generation lived under the law.
The law, yes.
The law was written. This is what you have to do. There were 10 commandments that were given.
Well, they would have been under the covenant, though, because they were the children of Abraham. That was the descendants of his.
But when the law was given to Moses, the Lord said, give this to my people and tell them this. So God was putting some guidelines in place.
The covenant led to the law. That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
But that law, the law wasn't given until God brought them out of Egypt, out of bondage. When he brought them out of bondage, 430 went in and 3 million came out or whatever, you know. So now Moses has to, that's not, look, if there were 3,000 people waiting on you and I to cross this river today at flood tide like it is.
3,000 or?
3,000 people. 3 million, sorry, 3 million. And when they went into bondage, there was a few hundred. When they come out of bondage, there was a few million. Now, it's 400 plus years later. However, they come out of there, and Moses has to lead these people that have been brought up in captivity. So they know. When you go, I've never been to prison, thank the Lord, but when you go to prison, or if you're dedicated in the morning and you have a certain schedule that you follow. So there are people that they go by their alarm clock, they're up at X time, they've got this much time to shower, they've got this much time to eat, they've got this much time, then they got to get to work, and so there was a schedule. When the children of Israel were in bondage, they had a schedule. They knew they had to work. They were building whatever Pharaoh told them to build in Egypt.
I bet it was more a quota than a schedule.
Right.
Where they would have had to schedule themselves around the quota.
Yeah. But they knew what they had to do. They knew what they had to eat. They knew that it was pretty good. So they kind of settled into a lifestyle that said, I'm going to have 3 squares meals. I'm gonna have, we're in bondage, but it's my work. It's what I do. It's what I do. So the first generation probably didn't like it. The second generation kind of inherited it. The third generation settled in for the long haul. They were in it. This is what we've always done. And when Moses comes along and God says, let my people go, now Moses has to grab these people out of there. And I'm certain that there's always a core group that was ready to leave.
Yeah.
And there would have been, what do they call them today? There would have been freedom champions ready to get out of this place. We got to get out of here. We got to go. And Moses would have been the one. So can you imagine how daunting of a task it would be of you and I today to show up at this riverbank at flood stage like it's at right now, or, you know, whatever, the water's higher.
Yeah.
And we got to take 3 million people across this river today. How are we going to do it? Well, today you have advertising. Probably 2 point whatever million of those people have a cell phone.
Yeah.
So you could put out an email blast. In 10 minutes, we're going to cross. Get ready. And they could spread the word.
Yeah.
Moses didn't have that. He just stood up with the staff and said, hear ye, hear ye. Here's what we're going to do. Then they would have had to pass it and pass it and pass it and pass it back through. So can you imagine what it would have been like for those people that were used to one thing, and now Moses has taken them out of this. It was captivity, but to them, it was normal.
Yeah.
Generations. Now we have to cross this river. So it would have been a daunting task for Moses. So finally God, when they get through and they're walking around these mountains, God says, come on up here, Moses, I got to give you something. Here's some guidelines for my people. They need to do this. They got to follow something. They just can't live because they're starting to go crazy. So now so that proves that people need to live by a set of guidelines that are set up
Yes, they do.
in our lifestyle. So every generation has had guidelines. This is how we have to do things. And even though it's changed some, the God of every generation is the same. and we're following him.
Yep.
And so Adam's generation walked in innocence, and Noah's faced judgment, and Moses has lived under the law. Here's what we're going to do. Give them these 10 commandments.
Yep.
Not a million, 10.
Because the covenant didn't say what not to do. It just said live a, oh, I lost the word.
Civil?
No. Live a sinless life, or live a life, a good godly life of sorts. Just kind of gave them that description, and then they just had to do it.
Right.
But the law laid out the rules for it. So I understand how that relates. And I believe the law, I think even Paul said that, it still connects to our generation. Do not steal, do not kill, do not covet. All those things. For sure that relates.
And it's funny because those are just internal things that God gave. We know. Mm-hmm. Our DNA is wrapped around, I'm not going to walk out in the parking lot and kill my neighbor.
Yep. Well, our country is. That doesn't mean our DNA is.
Well.
Godly people that follow a higher power typically have that. But people that don't.
But isn't there something that's internal that just tells you, probably shouldn't do that?
I mean, it says in the Bible, the Lord will allow you to be deceived.
Yes.
If you
Strong
want to
delusion, you'll believe a lie.
Strong delusion. And I believe if people want to believe that what they're feeling isn't true, they can, and the Lord will allow it.
You would have to stifle that feeling.
Yeah.
Put it under.
It's how you grow your kids, though. You imagine the mafia kids. They grow up in that. If their dad went out and killed a person and come home and talked about it, or however they do it, the kid's going to grow up in that, so they're going to have a tainted view of the world.
But you become hard.
Yep.
Think of our soldiers when they go overseas. Everything that's within us is taught to preserve life.
Our culture is.
Our culture.
No, it's within us.
But everything that we've been taught, we're to help people. We're to preserve. Now you go into a war zone where it's kill or be killed, and then those soldiers come back with this post-traumatic stress because they're doing what is internally we're wired to help, not hurt. Mm-hmm. Normally. I mean, there are the odd exception, out there. But internally, we're wired to help. God has created us to be helpers, not killers, not. Yeah. But if we have to, we have to.
Again, culture,
when it comes to that. But culture is a big thing.
Japan. If you're talking about the war, there's hundreds of stories where people, if they know that they're going to be captured or die, it's the culture to sit down ceremoniously. You take your dagger and that's it.
Wow.
Your life, it's about honor. You're not going to get captured and be taken by the enemy.
Remember the scripture teaches us about King Saul was on the battlefield and he was wounded. I think one version of the Bible says that he was mortally wounded. However, he wasn't dead yet. And one of the soldiers came along and found Saul and his armor bearer, shield bearer. And Saul said...
This was after he had fell on his...
Before. It was before he fell on his sword. He was wounded.
Oh, that's right.
He was wounded, and this man comes along, and finally he says, finally somebody's here that's, in my command that I can tell them. And he said, take my life for honor's sake, so that these, my men. And the guy said, I can't. You're the king. Like, I can't do that. So the Bible teaches that Saul fell on his own sword and he killed himself for the sake of honor.
But even in the law, even that happened in the young fellow went and told David, because somebody had to kill Saul because he didn't die yet.
Yeah.
Even after he fell on a sword. So the one that went to David said, I killed God's anointed. And David then killed him because he said, you cannot touch God's anointed. But even that's funny because the covenant, of course, didn't lay that out. The law did, do not kill. But then it was also God who commanded that these countries that have done evil, I believe, who were they fighting against? Was it the
enemy?
Goliath, the Philistines. It was the Philistines, wasn't it?
Yes.
So fighting against the Philistines, that was what the Lord had asked of them. But it's just it's funny relating all of it together. Because how do you connect that to the law, and how is it right in the law? I know David wasn't allowed to build the temple because he was a warrior. The Lord said, I can't have you. You have too much blood on your hands. Too much
bloodshed. We have a guy in our town here who used to be a law keeper, worked as a judge. Stop signs don't mean a thing. Blinkers, what are they? They don't stop, they don't blink, they don't nothing. There's a reason why there's a stop sign.
Yeah.
The law says you should stop here, because if you don't stop here, you could be involved in an accident. So that's why there were stop signs, laws put into place even back in the day for the children of Israel when they were wandering. So like with
I can
Saul,
see that being for why the covenant was put in.
Yeah.
But for the law, I can see that a little less for that. For the covenant, you couldn't eat pork because they probably didn't know how to cook it to the right temperature.
Right.
Pork has worms in it.
Yes, it does. It has to be cooked to at least
165.
Yep.
At least.
To knock out the parasites.
Yep. And they wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So I can see that being the stop sign. God says, you don't know what you're doing. Be careful. And I can see that being why it's made clean in the future. But for the law, don't covet thy neighbor. I can see that as thy neighbor's wife or what the neighbor has. I can see that as just a sin thing.
Yeah.
So the law, to me, it applies and it's always going to apply. But the covenant, to me, I feel has changed over the years a lot, relating to Jesus' death, what he said, and then also our own ideologies relating to it. I had one pastor in here that didn't believe in the covenant at all. He said everything that was is gone. He said it doesn't matter. Wear what you want, do what you want, as long as you follow the law.
There's always different trains of thought on that. So
and that's why I bring up this topic today.
You can pull in so many. So thinking on that man's perspective or that pastor's perspective, the Bible teaches us to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. We were given said things to do. Said things, whatever that is.
As the law, or just in our own lives?
Just in our own life. But then so now let's go to this. We're told, whether we want to believe it or not, even society tells us what we should wear, what we should do, how we should be, how we should look, how we should smell, what we should eat. That's called advertisement.
Yeah.
They're trying to get you to buy, do, be. Do you drive a Ford? Do you drive a Chev? Are you a Toyota person? Do you eat chicken? Do you eat fish? Do you eat pork? Come to my restaurant. Whatever. So we're told all these things. And we get into covenant and we attend church, and there are some churches that believe real hard. There are some that believe real nothing. You know, it's extremes. So do we live a covenant? Do we live a covenant under that guidance of said assembly or group or Do we live a covenant according to what God and what we have internally that we know right from wrong? I don't know.
What do you think of it?
I think that there are some things that we're taught that have nothing to do with going to heaven or going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
But we were taught them for so many years. Then it gets in here. I can't drink out of a plastic water bottle because whatever. I'm just coming up with a non-descriptive thing. But I was taught I can't drink out of a clear plastic water bottle. It has to be orange.
I've heard even as crazy as I can't wear red shirts.
Yes. Red nylons.
What's a red nylon?
Like pantyhose.
I don't want to wear pantyhose either.
No, I know, me either. I tried it once. Didn't fit very well.
Not really.
They were always riding up. So think about, yeah, I had a great example and I lost it with the riding up. What was we talking about?
We were talking about how does it apply in your mind. And the fake, like the plastic water bottle, what you're told.
You're told all these things. Sometimes they're opinions, other times they're, well, I did it this way and it worked for me, so you should try it that way. You should apply this to your heart. You should apply. At the end of the day, you have to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. But if we're going to fall into covenant and we're going to run in a group of people that are of like precious faith,
mm-hmm.
then the religious world would call it lining up. We're going to line up to this covenant, line up to this
ideology.
Yes, that's a good word. I was trying to find a good word for that, because the eternal truth will always be applied. The truth is, I'm a sinner and I need Jesus Christ to save me. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. If I want to go to heaven, I have to make my preparations now.
Yep.
I can't make them after I pass. There are certain things that are put in order. So God gave Moses these 10 commandments. My people are going crazy, and they're swaying away from said covenant, and they're just evil continually. So here's what I want you to do. Write these down. Take these 10. And while poor Mo was up on Mount Sinai, while he's up there writing these new covenants, these new 10 commandments, they're down there worshiping a cow that they built out of gold.
Yep.
And God said, here's an example. Look at them down there. Look at them. They're down there. They're just going crazy. What are we going to do? Because this is only how I feel, and because any restraint that they were told is now gone. They're free from coming out of bondage. Mm-hmm. They had restraints. They had to work. They had this certain set of, I hate to say rules, or they had everything in a box. They went into work, they went home, they had family. They went into work, they went home, and they had family. That's what they did. They didn't pay into a retirement program because they were going to work until they died because they were a slave, but they didn't know that they were a slave after a few generations.
That could connect to a lot of people when they retire.
Yeah.
They go home, they sit on the couch, and they die because they don't do nothing, because they never had a hobby, they never did nothing else.
Work was life. Life, just go, work all the time.
Connecting that, the multiple things you said there, you got the main belief, we're sinners and we need God. Would the law be next in that list? Where we have to live under the guidelines that God set for us. And then the covenant would be at the baseline of that, where these are some general rules you should live by to be a practicing Christian. some of the ones that apply, we don't sacrifice animals or any of that. And then would Paul's be under that, where, you know, he had a couple of ideas, and even his on marriage, he said it's better not to be married, so you can focus fully on the gospel.
Yeah.
So would that kind of be like the hierarchy of the rule set? We know that we're sinners. We should live by the law. Let's keep part of the covenant. That makes sense. And then also listen to Paul and the Acts and the apostles and all that.
When God gave Moses those commandments, that was the start of a journey for Christianity as a whole. Again, it was a reset. Gonna go. Here's what we're gonna do. Then in every generation, there are those that live hard, and then the opposite too. They don't live hardly anything.
Well, that's what happened with Philistia. What church was it where they all started off real good and they were doing great, and Paul was there, and then all of a sudden they were letting people in the church, and then one guy was having all relations with his mother-in-law or something like that, and then they were accepting him in, and anyway, it got bad. But I think that's kind of along the same lines where over time, sometimes we let our guard down.
And then sometimes we'll take those commandments that were given, which were only 10. You get the hard guys that will dissect those 10 commandments and say, here's what this means. So then they put their interpretation, which is not necessarily wrong, but trying to make it more than what it really is, or trying to make it less. Because there's always those ones out there who are going to push the boundary, the rule. The rule says stop at a stop sign. That means STOP. It even says it on the big red octagon. Stop. And if you don't stop, the issue is if you do not stop and there's a law keeper that's watching, the police. If the law keeper is watching and you don't stop and you roll through that stop sign and head to wherever you're going and they pull you over, you automatically know, I didn't stop at that stop sign. So then the police come up and say, do you know why I'm pulling you over today? Because I'm a nice person? You're always trying. No, you didn't stop at that stop sign back there. Now, most of the time you'll probably get a warning, or you may not get a warning. You may get a fine. But you know immediately you just broke that law. Now I'm going to pay the consequence. So there was 10 commandments that were given, and then these people will take them. Some want to break them down for less. Some want to break them down for more. I need more control. I need to be told, and I need to be. So people will always try to do that. And in Moses' generation, it was the same way. God said, here's 10 commandments, take them down, deliver them to my people just the way that they're written. Then people are going to take that and run with it. I've heard people say it like this to me over the years. These are wives' tales things, but it's also stuff that comes into your generations. You're at a restaurant, you spill the salt. Somebody says, "Oh, throw that over your shoulder."
I heard that.
What do you mean, throw it? The whole thing over my shoulder? Well, no, it's a bad luck thing. You spill salt, throw it over your shoulder. You break a mirror, 7 years bad luck. Like, where did all those things come from?
I don't know. That's weird.
You know, that's not laws or covenants. That's just how we try to govern ourselves. And so God gave Moses the 10 commandments. He took them down and delivered them while he was bringing them down. They were already in there worshiping some false god, and that was one of the commandments. There shall be no other gods before me. So he was setting these guidelines up, and eternal truths will always apply. God's character, holy and just and loving, that's always been his character through every generation. There's moral principles that we face, which are right and wrong things that we know that we should do or we shouldn't do. Like if I was to go outside the door right now and meet somebody walking down the street, and I just windmilled them a good clack right in the face. For no reason. That's morally right or wrong. Or, that's just being...
Yeah, I get you.
Then there's salvation through obedience to God, and there's this subject is a deep, deep, deep subject that we could spend hours and hours on.
I got two. Now this is of course, a short episode today because we got a couple things to do, and we got to go to a fair for one of my little cousins, and
can't wait to go.
He's working on my barbershop for it, actually. But
good.
I got two lessons two little stories connecting to what we're doing now.
Tell them.
Involving churches that have either let go or pushed forward.
Right.
And I'm not naming churches, I'm not naming areas where they're at in New Brunswick. But one story is of a church that currently is loosening standards. And what happened was they had always been a pretty prominent church around this area and around New Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually they're losing their youth, they're losing their elders, their middle-aged people, and it might have even been who they were partnered up with, like the organization or something.
Mm.
But what changed is they're now accepting, they're lowering the standards of what is considered a Christian, I should say. And as they drop the standard, you're starting to see a very, and not in a political way, but a liberal mindset develop. So that what's allowed, what's not allowed. Drinking allowed, drinking not allowed, swearing not allowed. Who can you be a partner with? A lot of different things associated with that. And it's interesting to see how the church develops because of that, and how the people in the church develop. And it's unique, for sure. And then there's another assembly I know of that is doing the opposite, tightening the standards. And a story that I heard from them would be to do with snowmobiles. And some people that are listening might even know this story. This has happened years and years ago. I don't know how many years, maybe upwards of 70 even, whenever snowmobiles come out. But in this church, they'd have a lot of couples that would go out snowmobiling, and on their adventure, they would swap partners. In the church. They were churchgoers, swapping partners, and the pastor ended up saying, no more snowmobiling because of it. Flatten that problem out. And it worked. Completely. And over the years, that same organization has continued to grow, and they've actually gained more. They have a massive youth group, massive church, even though they have more restrictions than the church that I had previously mentioned. So it's funny, you see, when you apply, just like you're tightening up whatever those are.
Vice.
A vice, like you're tightening up a vice, you see that sometimes that is beneficial. But then you also get people that come against you for it. But nonetheless, that's kind of the ideology, the basis of what I wanted to talk about today. The covenant, what, again, doesn't apply, what does, and where it comes from.
Okay, so we're not going to break down that story. I'm not going to worry.
No, I don't want to dig into that.
Just because, anyway.
But just like I said, it's funny, because how do you deal with that? The runner of this church said, nope, no more snowmobiling, and it squashed the issue. Whereas this other church that might have even been acceptable. So that's where, would you rather be accepted or would you rather have the truth?
When it comes to the core of the teaching, the middle of it all, one church doing it this way, one church doing it that way. Both, I guess, possibly successful in their venture.
One of them.
No, one of them for sure. The other not so successful. Okay. So the letter, the law, Paul, let's just go back to Paul. Paul's writing.
We got to continue this another time. We'll have a conversation after. This is Beyond the Roar. Thank you for coming on out today. Please like and subscribe, share, comment, make fun of us. Tell us if we're wrong. Tell us if we're right. And if we're wrong, even better. Let's have a conversation about it.
This is Beyond the Roar. Thanks for watching.